All right, so next up, we've got a great panel. But first, as many of you know, we've really expanded our business in Canada over the past year or so. We've got a bunch of amazing clients there. And this week, we've officially opened our office in Toronto. So I'd like to welcome Heather Forrester, our Canada country manager. She's here today. Round of applause. So if you see her out in the break, please say hi. Now, on the topic of Canada, here's Michael Rubenstein, along with the famous Brian Lesser and Jacob Nielsen. I wrote down their titles because they're complicated. You're the CEO of Zaxis.
That's right.
And Jacob is, I had to write this down, the Managing Director of Interaction for Group M UK. Now, these guys are on a lot of panels. They're famous. And I said, I need something bigger this time. So they've promised to speak about digital advertising at galactic scale. So, Michael, take it away.
Well, definitely galactic scale. With 10 billion pounds in annual revenue at WPP, 162,000 employees, operating in 110 countries on this planet, I would say definitely operating at planetary scale, if not galactic scale. So it's a huge success story and a giant digital media company that's being built at WPP. So thanks so much for being with me as two of the people leading the digital charge. And thanks so much for traveling a great distance to be here, Jacob from the UK and Brian from New Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah, which right now is very difficult. So
yes,
probably easier for me to get here than for you.
That's right.
Well, actually, I know you had a lot of damage and difficulty after Hurricane Sandy, actually. So, you know, extra special thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
And if you need a hot shower or anything like that, there are facilities here. You're welcome to use.
Thank you. I may take you up on that.
So WPP has been in the news a lot lately on the digital front. Obviously, the acquisition of AKQA, one of the largest independent digital players. The revelation in the most recent earnings announcement that 32% of the company's revenues are attributable to this digital bucket, basically. I mean, those are huge numbers, and that's a really big story. My first question is, what's behind that? What's driving that?
Well, if you talk to at a Group M level, if you talk to Martin about what are some of the key areas he thinks we should go into, it's predominantly in two areas. It's the BRIC markets. You can see our recent acquisitions is very much not in Western Europe or the US, but other markets. So that's a big growth area for us. And then also in the digital space. The business model is changing. You work on a typical agency business model, and now you change that to a completely different model. And I think that's some of the really exciting areas that drive some of these numbers already now. So that's also important to say is the numbers you have now, that's based on factual numbers now. It's not a vision of something happening in 3 years' time.
Yeah. Brian, obviously as CEO at Zaxis, you're helping agencies and clients take advantage of technology and data. Your business has grown tremendously as well. What's the growth driver behind that?
Yeah, so I think when you think about WPP as the largest marketing services organization in the world, WPP is made up of lots of different companies, including Creative Shops, Ogilvy, J. Walter Thompson, et cetera. In 2003, WPP made the decision to consolidate all of the media agencies into Group M, and that's when Group M was formed. And the logic behind that is if we can use the scale of media buying, we can help our clients increase their competitive advantage through that scale. Since then, the world has changed. Zaxis is now part of the Group M family of companies, and we're growing very quickly, I think really for two reasons. One is we take advantage of that scale that Group M has, which is about $80 billion worth of spend globally per year. We're obviously a small part of that, but more and more of that $80 billion is digital. So we're at the heart of that digital spend. The other trend within Group M is that more of our business is centered around analytics and insight. And I think people think about Zaxis in terms of real-time buying or display or video, but they discount the fact that we are as much an insights company as a media buying targeting company. And so we're very much at the center of providing insights back to advertisers based on the data that we gather.
Cool. Now, I'm interested in talking a little bit about your backgrounds. Here you've got two people who are not agency people per se. You come from different backgrounds, and you're leading this digital agency of the future. Now, I know actually life doesn't always end up the way you think it's going to be. Does anyone here know what WPP stands for? I looked into this. Do you guys know?
I do.
You do? Anyone here? No? You know. What is it? Yeah, exactly. It's wire and plastic products. And so obviously WPP had a different, didn't end up, I don't think, being exactly what it was originally envisioned as well.
It was a shopping cart company.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, I mean, when you were thinking about your career and where it was going to go, were you dreaming about leading the digital agency?
Shopping carts. I was thinking about shopping carts. I have maybe an interesting background. I started in an agency 20 years ago. So when I started my career, I was in an agency when there was no such thing as advertising agencies versus media agencies. They were full-service agencies. And very quickly, I got out of that because I saw the promise of the internet and migrated much more into a product management role. And so, before we started the Media Innovation Group and Xaxis, I was a product manager at 24/7 Real Media. And I think that's sort of indicative of where the agency business is going. Not to say that within media agencies, the traditional buyer planners are going anywhere. They're definitely not. But they will have more of a technology and analytics background and more of a product management discipline than they have had in the past.
Jacob, what would you say?
I don't know if I should share that, but I didn't have a dream of working for an agency one day. My background is from investment banking. I've started a couple of companies, worked in technology companies, and spent 7 years at Microsoft. And then some people from Group M said, why don't you come and run Group M? And I said, I think you got the wrong number. I have never run an agency. You are asking me to run the biggest group of agencies in one of the most sophisticated markets. You definitely have the wrong number. But then they started talking about, well, that's based on what Group M is today. Here's what we think Group M will be in the future. And then I started listening. And the principle of how we think we're going to transition our business into the area we all are in, the area Brian leads at a global level, that's quite fascinating. That paradigm shift of being a traditional business in an agency world with the power we have today, going into a more scalable, data, technology-driven business, that's difficult. But it's also very, very exciting.
So we've talked, Brian talked in his opener about scale, you talked about scale, you talked about scale in the context of Group M. So clearly scale is at the heart of WPP's strategy for building a giant business in digital. But how does scale translate to better?
Well, here's Brian can talk on Xaxis, but here's from a Group M perspective. We spend a large proportion of our time pitching for our current clients and for new clients. And if you look at the pattern particularly the last 2 years, the pitching has been very much led by financial and procurement people. So that means that whether we like it or not, marketing directors have put a little bit in the background. Not to say that's not important, the strategy and what they want to do for the brand, but then finance and procurement comes in and you start having conversations that can change it completely. So for us to deliver constantly improvement for our clients, we need to develop our business. We can't just carry on doing exactly what we used to do in the past. And then when you look at us building businesses like Xaxis, which creates the scale for us, which has the data, which has the technology, and you look at us, if we just take UK as an example, we have across this part of the business, we have around 70 people, which we hired the last 2 years. One of these 70 people come from an agency background. you then see that you're building an expertise within an agency group to live in a different world, which takes a lot of scale. And if you then look at what all our competitors, and we have some fantastic competitors out there, they're not remotely close to any of the numbers. I think the one who hires the most are 15 people across Europe, where we are 70 people in the UK. That's some interesting facts. If you then look at small agencies who are doing a lot of exciting stuff, how can they ever have a procurement conversation that can beat a big scalable conversation like we have? Obviously, we're happy about that for obvious reasons, but I think you really show that scale will have a big change in the structure of the landscape, which excites us.
And what about geographic scale? Brian, I know that's part of your plan.
Yeah, so I think scale to a company like Xaxis is two things. One is there's buying leverage in scale, and so we can have relationships with publishers where we don't have to buy media at auction. And it's not in our interest to buy media at auction. We'd rather have relationships with publishers and buy directly from them. And then there's data scale, which means when we work on behalf of the collective, all of our advertisers, we get smarter and pass the intelligence back to our clients so that they can buy smarter. In terms of geography, Xaxis right now is in 17 markets. We'll be in 25 markets by the end of the first quarter. It's extremely important for us to be in every major media market because increasingly global advertisers are asking for an audience buying solution in every market throughout the world. So we just launched China a few weeks ago, for example, and it's very early days for audience buying in China, but we were really pushed into that market by our clients who are doing this in the US, they're doing it in Europe, they're starting to do it in Latin America, and they need us to be in China and across Asia. So geographic diversity and expanding our footprint is extremely important to our clients.
So speaking of geography, Jacob, you've seen in Europe the advertising business fall off a cliff, the UK not so much. Sir Martin Sorrell, who leads WPP Group, has cautioned that moving into 2013, he's very concerned or nervous about 4 gray swans, as he talked about. They're not black swans, because we think we know what they are. And he highlighted the Eurozone crisis, Middle East instability, a hard or soft landing in China, and the biggest one, the health of the US economy. And you've heard Brian and Joanna talk about 2013. What do you think, and what do you see as being the outlook ahead?
Well, what Martin talks about is if I look at it from a European perspective, is the unknown. Have we seen everything in Spain? Have we seen everything in Italy? Have we seen everything in Greece? Have we seen the money that needed to be pushed into these markets? That's one aspect. The other aspect, and who's going to push the money into that? The markets. Luckily, UK is not in the euro. Germany is, and Germany needs to have very big, deep pockets. But do they actually have deep enough pockets? Because we don't know what's going to happen. So that's one of the elements. The other element for us in the UK, where it's going very well, contrary to the rest of Europe, is obviously we have events like the Euro football, we have the Olympics that has a massive input to us. We managed to trick the entire world. The entire world thought it was going to rain in London, but the sun was actually out there, so people had to buy a lot of clothes. So you did have different elements, and if you see that, that's one aspect. The other aspect, you have to look at the different medias. We know money follows the eyeballs. I think that's known for everyone. Print is falling off a cliff everywhere. We are talking dramatic numbers in terms of how the downturn is going, but a lot of that money goes into digital. So digital.
What about video?
Video is a very interesting dynamic. You have a TV market that's traded on share. So if you take money out of the TV market, because it's traded on share, you actually doesn't impact your agreements you have with broadcasters. We know that more and more people go online. So what we are doing in the UK, we are buying about, if you think about what Joanne also talked about, in the UK we are buying about 30 to 40% of the total VOD market, who are growing dramatically. 85% of that money comes directly from TV money.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, that means that let's just assume, which is not the case, let's assume the digital market is flat. You have print money coming in, you have TV money coming in, so that's growing.
Yeah.
And that's growing in the space of where Brian is working, in space where yourself is working. So you see more and more traction in that space, which, by the way, is changing our industry.
Yeah. Last question, very interesting. Last question I have is, Brian, you'd mentioned to me before that there are areas of the business that WPP is going to build. There are areas of the business where WPP is going to partner. I'd love to get your take on that. But also, before I do that, we've obviously, you're a global behemoth controlling billions of dollars of digital spend. We have a lot of companies out here that I'm sure would love to do more business with WPP. Raise your hand if you'd like to do more business next year than you do this year with WPP.
Not that many, actually.
No, all right, there we go. Everyone's hands. So, so where do you partner as opposed to build? And what makes a good partner versus someone who really gets under your skin?
Yeah, so I think that what we're probably going to see, because of some of the gray swans that Martin talks about, is some consolidation in the industry. I would be shocked if Terry Kawaja's Lumascape gets much more complicated before it becomes more simplified. Because there's just not enough room for all of these companies to exist. And that's not a bad thing, because I think that the good companies will do very well. WPP has a different technology strategy than some of our competitors within the agency holding companies, in that we do believe that part of the technology stack should be proprietary. For example, the data management platform should be proprietary to WPP, both because it protects our advertisers' data assets and because there are tremendous data assets that exist within WPP, for example, within Kantar, that we can marry up and take advantage of on behalf of our clients. However, that doesn't mean that we are intending to build the entire digital advertising stack. So we partner with companies like AppNexus because it allows us to use infrastructure that we can build on top of. And I think that that's actually a really good model for us, is to build proprietary in certain circumstances and then partner in other areas where it's not in our interest to build from scratch. I think in terms of partnering, we're very good at partnering. We're very thorough in our evaluation of companies. I think if anybody in the room has partnered with Group M or partnered with Xaxis, you'll find that we do have technology people, engineers, product managers that do a pretty thorough analysis. And when we see something that can really add value to what we're doing, we put skin in the game and we partner effectively.
Great.
Small comment. I would say the only thing I would build on top of what Brian is saying is that if you imagine my day, how many companies that comes in and will tell me they can build a rocket ship that flies around the moon twice in half a day, you would be astonished how much time I can spend on that. And often we see companies are not delivering what they're promising. And a lot of the companies, they are saying, we see the big price of buying 34% of the market. My really sincere advice is, go in and forget about the big price. Go in and find a small area you can really, really succeed in and do that very well. Then Group M will take you bigger, instead of going in and over-promising and under-delivering. I think that is my biggest learning in the last 3.5 years I worked here.
Great. Well, that's fantastic advice, and best of luck to you both in 2013. Thank you again for being here. Please give our friends from WPP a round of applause.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. I bet you're all ready for a break. So we're running a little bit behind, so we're going to cut the break down to 20 minutes. We've got refreshments outside. Please say hi to our sponsors. And right after the break, we have a world premiere. So please come back right on time. We've got a great couple of sessions later, and then we have lunch and plenty of time for networking later. So see you back here in 20 minutes.